Spirit possession is the control of a human body by another spirit, and that belief exists in many religions. Whether possession may be voluntary or involuntary and may be considered to have beneficial or detrimental effects on the host. The following amazing incident involved spirit possession that took place shortly after World War II, which involved two brothers, Jimmy and Bill Corfield, who flew planes during World War II. World War II had been raging for almost 2 years when in July 1941, 17-year-old Bill Corfield was at home with his older brother Jimmy, who was 24 years old and on leave from the RAF. Bill considered his older brother a war hero who flew regular missions with the RAF and could not wait to emulate his brother, and told him that he too wanted to be a pilot like him with the RAF. His brother Jimmy was well aware of the danger and high fatality rate of pilots during the war and tried to deter his brother from joining the RAF by telling him that would not suit his temperament, and if he was determined to join up, he should work in the office, where it was much safer rather than up in the air. On the 12th of August, and one day before his 25th birthday, Jimmy was flying a Bristol Blenheim, which was used extensively in the first 2 years of the war. His mission was to do a low-level raid across the North Sea and then fly over Holland into Germany. Their orders were to bomb 2 factories outside of Cologne. The whole event was meant to be a surprise daylight attack that Stalin had asked Churchill to carry out so as to halt Germany's march into Russia. Jimmy and his fellow crewmen successfully completed their bombing mission, but daylight raids were exceptionally risky, and as they were returning to base, their plane was hit both by ground artillery and German air fighters. All in all, 12 Bristol Blenheims were shot down, including Jimmy Corfield's plane. Jimmy's body was found 2 weeks later, washed up at the northern end of Texel Island, a short distance from the Dutch coast, which was a common location that many airmen fighting for Britain that were unfortunately shot down were washed up. Although Bill Corfield was extremely upset at the loss of his brother, it would not be the last time they would communicate with him. Not to be deterred by his brother's warnings about flying, if anything, it spurred him on in his determination to become a pilot. Bill joined the RAF and was posted No. 28 Elementary Training School at Wolverhampton in the West Midlands in central England, and true to his word, would go on to obtain his wings. He was then posted to the Operational Training Unit, where he too would participate in the theatre of war, just like his brother, where he flew Wellington bombers and Lancaster bombers and achieved his ambition of becoming a pilot. Unlike Jimmy, Bill was fortunate enough to survive the war and continued to make flying his career, where he went to the Transport Command to fly Dakotas and qualified for a civilian pilot's license, which would enable him to fly passenger airlines. But Bill decided to remain with the RAF and was posted to No. 1 Ferry Unit at Pershore, Worcestershire in the West Midlands, England. It was on his next tour of duty at Pershore where Bill would again meet up with his deceased brother. It was on the 12th of January 1947 that Bill had to fly an Avro Anson 19 twin-engine plane to Singapore, stopping first in Paris and then to Italy. After Italy, the next stop would be Athens, and because the plane he was flying was only a small aircraft, it was important to check his fuel against any inclement weather. Initially, they were advised that the weather conditions would be safe and continued their journey up to the point of no return. This was a point where you needed the same amount of fuel to either continue your journey or go back. Unfortunately for Bill and his crew, they had extreme weather conditions where they ran into a severe thunderstorm. The storm forced Bill's plane down to 50 feet above sea level because to have taken his plane higher would have risked the plane breaking up due to buffeting storm clouds. Bill and his crew were now in mortal danger, surrounded by black skies and severe weather conditions, and would have been dangerously low on fuel. Because they had zero visibility, they'd overshot their proposed landing site on an island in the Ionian Sea off the Greek coast. But then, simultaneously, all 3 crew members spotted the coastline, but it was unsuitable for landing as it was rocky and would have been extremely dangerous to attempt a landing. If Bill was unable to locate a safe beach, he would have had no other option but to land on the sea, which would surely have meant their certain demise or serious injury. Then a navigator announced that he had spotted the Corinth Canal, where Bill had an instinctive feeling that he needed to steer the plane to the canal's opening. It was whilst flying inside the canal that all 3 crew members experienced a sense of peace and silence that appeared to surround the plane. One of the crew said it felt like they were all inside a quiet cathedral. It was at this stage that Bill, without any doubt, felt the presence of his brother Jimmy in the plane. He said it felt as normal as actually talking to him. Although he could not see him physically, he was certain he was with him. Bill was now feeling a sense of high emotion and could only put the intense feeling down to the fact that he was in extreme danger. But what happened next took the incident to another level, where Bill then relaxed his hands and allowed his brother to take over the controls. Bill would later compare the feeling to sensitives and mediums who allow spirits to take over their bodies in automatic writing or seances. Now under his brother's control, the plane flew 4 miles down the Corinth Canal in the dark until they safely arrived at the other end. And it was not until they reached safety that Bill felt Jimmy's presence leave him. Even though Bill was now an experienced flyer, he realized he could never have steered the plane through the canal in a straight line as he had just done without the help of a powerful force, because even the most experienced pilot could not have flown the plane in such violent stormy conditions, as it would have been buffeted around. But as long as his brother remained in control, the plane's compass did not waver at all, and the plane remained absolutely straight throughout the ordeal. However, after surviving that ordeal, they were still not out of danger, as their fuel was now critically low and visibility was non-existent, and they were still uncertain where they could safely land. Bill again relied on instinct and his brother, when he somehow knew when to turn, and as he did, the lights of Athens miraculously appeared to him. As the plane touched safely down, the port engine immediately ran out of fuel, just as the plane taxied to a halt. It had somehow timed itself perfectly to the last drop of fuel. When the story of their miracle flight reached the Greek authorities, they were told that their flight through the canal, as they had claimed, could not possibly have taken place, because the walls of the canal were barely wider than the wingtips of the plane, and even if the weather conditions were perfect, the flight would have been an impossibility, and in a severe storm, it was definitely not possible. When Bill later checked on the canal's width compared to the plane's wingspan, he too knew that he could not have flown the plane through that small clearance. But that was because he hadn't, his brother Jimmy had.